the Mount of Olives Discourse. Luke chapter 21 in various versions with text. And he looked up and saw the rich men casting their gifts into the treasury. And looking up, he saw the men of wealth putting their offerings in the money box. Then Jesus looked at what was happening in the great house of God. There was a box for money there. Many rich people were putting their gifts of money into it. Now Jesus looked up and saw rich people dropping their gifts into the offering box. Jesus looked up and saw the rich putting their gifts into the offering box. He looked up and saw the rich people who were putting their gifts into the treasury. And he saw also a certain poor widow casting in there 2 mites. And he saw a certain poor widow putting in a farthing. Then he saw a woman, her husband had died. She was very poor. She put 2 very small coins of little value into the box. Then he saw a destitute widow drop in 2 small copper coins. He also saw a poor widow put in 2 small copper coins. He saw a certain poor widow casting in 2 lepta. He saw a certain poor widow casting in 2 small brass coins. And he said, Of a truth, I say unto you, that this poor widow has cast in more than they all. And he said, Truly I say to you, this poor widow has given more than all of them. Let me tell you this, said Jesus. This poor woman has put more money into the box than everyone else. He said, I tell you with certainty, this destitute widow has dropped in more than all of them. He said, I tell you the truth, this poor widow has put in more than all of them. He said, Truly I tell you, this poor widow put in more than all of them. For all these have of their abundance cast in unto the offerings of God. But she of her penury has cast in all the living that she had. For they gave out of their wealth, having more than enough for themselves. But she, even out of her need, has put in all her living. The rich people put in money that they do not need. They have plenty more. This woman has less money than she needs. She needs money to buy bread to eat. But she put all of that money into the box. Because all the others contributed to the offering out of their surplus, but she, in her poverty, dropped in everything she had to live on. For they all offered their gifts out of their wealth, but she, out of her poverty, put in everything she had to live on. For all these put in gifts from their abundance, but she, out of her poverty, put in all that she had to live on. And as some spake of the temple, how it was adorned with goodly stones and gifts, he said. And some were talking about the temple, how it was made fair with beautiful stones and with offerings. But he said, Some of those that followed Jesus were talking about the great house of God. They spoke about the many beautiful and valuable stones in the walls. They pointed out the many beautiful gifts to God that people had put on it. Now while some people were talking about the temple, how it was decorated with beautiful stones and gifts dedicated to God, he said. Now while some were speaking about the temple, how it was adorned with beautiful stones and offerings, Jesus said. As some were talking about the temple and how it was decorated with beautiful stones and gifts, he said, As for these things which you behold, the days will come in the which there shall not be left one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. As for these things which you see, the days will come when not one stone will be resting on another, but all will be broken down. You can see all these beautiful things just now, Jesus said, but a day is coming when enemies will destroy it all. They will throw down every stone. Not one will remain on top of another. As for these things that you see, the time will come when not one stone will be left on another that won't be knocked down. As for these things that you are gazing at, the days will come when not one stone will be left on another. All will be torn down. As for these things which you see, the days will come in which there will not be left here one stone on another that will not be thrown down. And they asked him, saying, Master, but when shall these things be? And what sign will there be when these things shall come to pass? And they said to him, Master, when will these things be? And what sign will there be when these events are to take place? Teacher, they asked, so when will this happen? What will we see just before this happens? Then they asked him, Teacher, when will these things take place? And what will be the sign that these things are about to take place? So they asked him, Teacher, when will these things happen? And what will be the sign that these things are about to take place? They asked him, Teacher, so when will these things be? What is the sign that these things are about to happen? And he said, Take heed that you be not deceived, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and the time draws near. Go you not therefore after them. And he said, Take care that you are not tricked, for a number of people will come in my name, saying, I am he, and the time is near. Do not go after them. Be careful, he replied. Do not believe things that are not true. After all, many people will come and they will say, I am Jesus. They will say that the right time for God is soon. Do not follow those people. He said, Be careful that you are not deceived, because many will come in my name and say, I am, and the time has come. Don't follow them. He said, Watch out that you are not misled, for many will come in my name, saying, I am he, and the time is near. Do not follow them. He said, Watch out that you do not get led astray, for many will come in my name, saying, I am he, and the time is near. Therefore do not follow them. He said, Watch out that you don't get led astray, for many will come in my name, saying, I am he, and the time is at hand. Therefore, don't follow them. But when you shall hear of wars and commotions, be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass, but the end is not by and by. And when news of wars and troubled times comes to your ears, have no fear, for these things have to be, but the end will not be now. And when you hear about wars, do not be afraid. Also, do not be afraid when people are fighting against their governments. These things must happen first, but the end will not happen immediately. When you hear of wars and revolutions, never be alarmed, because these sort of things must take place first, but the end won't come right away. And when you hear of wars and rebellions, do not be afraid, for these things must happen first, but the end will not come at once. When you hear of wars and disturbances, do not be terrified, for these things must happen first, but the end won't come immediately. Then said he unto them, Nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. Then he said to them, Nation will be moved against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. Yes, he was saying, people from one country will fight people from another country, and kings will send their people to fight other kings and their people. Then he went on to say to them, Nation will rise up in arms against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. Then he said to them, Nation will rise up in arms against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. Then he said to them, Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And great earthquakes shall be in divers places, and famines, and pestilences, and fearful sights, and great signs shall there be from heaven. There will be great earth shocks and outbursts of disease in a number of places, and men will be without food, and there will be wonders and great signs from heaven. The ground will move so much that people will be afraid. In many different places, plants for food will not grow, so many people will go hungry. Illnesses will go from one person to another, so many people will die. Many things will also happen in the sky that will frighten people. There will be great earthquakes, famines, and plagues in various places, and there will be fearful events and awful signs from heaven. There will be great earthquakes, and famines, and plagues in various places, and there will be terrifying sights and great signs from heaven. There will be great earthquakes, famines, and plagues in various places. There will be terrors and great signs from heaven. But before all these they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. But before all this they will take you and be very cruel to you, giving you up to the synagogues and to prisons, taking you before kings and rulers because of my name. But before all those things happen, these things will happen. People that hate me will take hold of you. They will do bad things to you because you are obeying me. They will take you to their meeting places. They will bring you in front of kings and rulers, and they will ask them to put you in prison or to kill you. But before all these things take place, people will arrest you and persecute you. They will hand you over to synagogues and prisons, and you will be brought before kings and governors for my name's sake. But before all this, they will seize you and persecute you, handing you over to the synagogues and prisons. You will be brought before kings and governors because of my name. But before all these things, they will lay their hands on you and will persecute you, delivering you up to synagogues and prisons, bringing you before kings and governors for my name's sake. And it shall turn to you for a testimony. And it will be turned to a witness for you. This will be the moment to tell them the good news about me. It will give you an opportunity to testify. This will be a time for you to serve as witnesses. It will turn out as a testimony for you. Settle it therefore in your hearts, not to meditate before what you shall answer. So take care not to be troubled before the time comes about what answers you will give. So prepare your minds. Do not think about how to answer the questions of kings and rulers. So purpose in your hearts not to prepare your defense ahead of time. Therefore, be resolved not to rehearse ahead of time how to make your defense. Settle it therefore in your hearts not to meditate beforehand how to answer. Settle it therefore in your hearts not to meditate beforehand how to answer. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. For I will give you words and wisdom, so that not one of those who are against you will be able to get the better of you or to put you in the wrong. After all, I will give you the right words to speak, so that nobody can argue with you. They will just be quiet. Because I will give you the ability to speak, along with wisdom, that none of your opponents will be able to resist or refute. For I will give you the words, along with the wisdom, that none of your adversaries will be able to withstand or contradict. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which all your adversaries will not be able to withstand or to contradict. And you shall be betrayed, both by parents and brethren and kinsfolks and friends, and some of you shall they cause to be put to death. But you will be given up even by your fathers and mothers, your brothers and relations and friends, and some of you will be put to death. Even your parents and other people in your family will bring you in front of kings and rulers. They will kill some of you. You will be betrayed even by parents, brothers, relatives, and friends, and they will put some of you to death. You will be betrayed even by parents, brothers, relatives, and friends, and they will have some of you put to death. You will be handed over even by parents, brothers, relatives, and friends. They will cause some of you to be put to death. And you shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. And you will be hated by all men because of me. Everybody will hate you because you are obeying me. You will be hated continuously by everyone because of my name. You will be hated by everyone because of my name. You will be hated by all for my name's sake. But there shall not an hair of your head perish. But not a hair of your head will come to destruction. But your life will be safe with me. You will not lose even one hair from your head. And yet not a hair on your head will be lost. Yet not a hair of your head will perish. and not a hair of your head will perish. In your patience, possess you your souls. By going through all these things, you will keep your lives. Yes, you will really live if you never stop obeying me. By your endurance, you will protect your lives. By your endurance, you will gain your lives. By your endurance, you will win your lives. And when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. But when you see armies all round about Jerusalem, then be certain that her destruction is near. One day you will see Jerusalem with armies all round it. Then you will know that enemies will soon destroy Jerusalem. When you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then understand that its devastation is approaching. And when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. But when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then know that its desolation has come near. But when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then know that its desolation is near. But when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then know that its desolation is at hand. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. Then let those who are in Judea go in flight to the mountains, and those who are in the middle of the town go out, and let not those who are in the country come in. People in Judea must then run to the hills and hide. People that are inside the city must leave it. People that are outside the city must not go back into it. Then those in Judea must flee to the mountains. Those inside the city must leave it, and those in the countryside must not go into it. Then those who are in Judea must flee to the mountains. Those who are inside the city must depart. Those who are out in the country must not enter it. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let those who are in the midst of her depart. Let those who are in the country not enter it. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. For these are the days of punishment, in which all the things in the writings will be put into effect. This is when God will punish Israel's people. Then all the things will happen that his servants wrote about. Because these are the days of vengeance, when all that is written will be fulfilled. Because these are the days of vengeance, to fulfill all that is written. For these are the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days, for there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. It will be hard for women who are with child, and for her with a baby at the breast in those days, for great trouble will come on the land, and wrath on this people. How terrible it will be for those women who are pregnant, or who are nursing babies in those days, because there will be great distress in the land, and wrath against this people. Woe to those who are pregnant, and to those who are nursing their babies in those days, for there will be great distress on the earth, and wrath against this people. Woe to those who are pregnant and to those who nurse infants in those days, for there will be great distress in the land and wrath to this people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. And they will be put to death with the sword, and will be taken as prisoners into all the nations, and Jerusalem will be crushed under the feet of the Gentiles, till the times of the Gentiles are complete. At that time, enemies will kill many people with sharp knives. They will take some people, and they will cause them to leave their country. They will live in many other countries, and they will not be free to return to this country. People that are not Jews will destroy Jerusalem. They will rule here until it is time for them to stop. They will fall by the edge of the sword and be carried off as captives among all the nations, and Jerusalem will be trampled on by the unbelievers until the times of the unbelievers are fulfilled. They will fall by the edge of the sword and be led away as captives among all nations. Jerusalem will be trampled down by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. They will fall by the edge of the sword and will be led captive into all the nations. Jerusalem will be trampled down by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. And there will be signs in the sun and moon and stars, and on the earth fear among the nations, and doubt because of the loud noise of the sea and the waves. You will see strange things happen to the sun and moon and stars. On earth, the things that happen will make people in many countries very afraid. The sea will make a lot of noise, and there will be big storms at sea. There will be signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars, and there will be distress on earth among the nations that are confused by the roaring of the sea and its waves. And there will be signs in the sun and moon and stars, and on the earth nations will be in distress, anxious over the roaring of the sea and the surging waves. And there will be signs in the sun and moon and stars, and on the earth distress of nations in perplexity, because of the roaring of the sea and the waves. There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars, and on the earth anxiety of nations, in perplexity for the roaring of the sea and the waves. Men's hearts failing them for fear, and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. Men's strength will go from them in fear, and in waiting for the things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of the heavens will be moved. This will cause trouble, and it will frighten people because they do not understand these things. The powerful things in the sky will move from their usual places. Then people will be afraid about what will happen next in the world. They will be so afraid that they will become very, very weak. People will faint from fear and apprehension because of the things that are to come on the inhabited world, because the powers of heaven will be shaken. People will be fainting from fear and from the expectation of what is coming on the world, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken. People will be fainting from fear and from expectation of the things which are coming on the world, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken. men fainting for fear, and for expectation of the things which are coming on the world, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken. And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. And then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. It is then that they will see the Son of Man. I will come in a cloud with a lot of power. I will look very important and very beautiful. Then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. Then they will see the Son of Man arriving in a cloud with power and great glory. Then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draws near. But when these things come about, let your heads be lifted up, because your salvation is near. When these things begin to happen, stand up and look up. God will soon save you. Now when these things begin to take place, stand up and lift up your heads, because your deliverance is approaching. But when these things begin to happen, stand up and raise your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. But when these things begin to happen, look up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is near. But when these things begin to happen, look up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is near. And he spake to them a parable. Behold, the fig tree and all the trees. And he made a story for them. See the fig tree and all the trees. Jesus then explained to them what this time would be like. Think about the fig tree or any other tree. Then he told them a parable. Look at the fig tree and all the trees. Then he told them a parable. Look at the fig tree and all the other trees. He told them a parable. See the fig tree and all the trees. When they now shoot forth, you see and know of your own selves that summer is now near at hand. When they put out their young leaves, you take note of it, and it is clear to you that summer is coming. You see new leaves on the tree, then you know that summer will come soon. Nobody needs to tell you that. As soon as they produce leaves, you can see for yourselves and know that summer is already near. When they now shoot forth, you see and know of your own selves that summer is now near at hand. When they sprout leaves, you see for yourselves and know that summer is now near. When they are already budding, you see it and know by your own selves that the summer is already near. When they are already budding, you see it and know by your own selves that the summer is already near. So likewise you, when you see these things come to pass, know you that the kingdom of God is near at hand. In the same way, when you see these things taking place, you may be certain that the kingdom of God is near. It will be the same when you see all these things happening. You will then know that God will soon begin to rule. In the same way, when you see these things taking place, you will know that the kingdom of God is near. So also you, when you see these things happening, know that the kingdom of God is near. Even so, you also, when you see these things happening, know that the kingdom of God is near. Even so, you also, when you see these things happening, know that God's kingdom is near. Verily, I say unto you, this generation shall not pass away till all be fulfilled. Truly, I say to you, this generation will not come to an end till all things are complete. Let me tell you this, some of the people alive will not die until all this has happened. I tell all of you with certainty, this generation won't disappear until all these things take place. I tell you the truth, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. Truly, I tell you, this generation will not pass away until all things are accomplished. Most certainly, I tell you, this generation will not pass away until all things are accomplished. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. Heaven and earth will come to an end, but my words will not come to an end. The sky and the earth will go away, but my message will remain true. What I have said will happen. Heaven and earth will disappear, but my words won't ever disappear. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will by no means pass away. And take heed to yourselves, lest at any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting and drunkenness and cares of this life, and so that day come upon you unawares. But give attention to yourselves, for fear that your hearts become overfull of the pleasures of food and wine, and the cares of this life, and that day may come on you suddenly, and take you, as in a net. But be careful and watch how you live. Do not eat or drink too much. Do not waste your time like that. Do not waste time by having troubles in your mind about your life. If you do, that day will surprise you. It will come when you are not looking. Constantly be on your guard, so that your hearts will not be loaded down with self-indulgence, drunkenness, and the worries of this life, or that day will take you by surprise. But be on your guard so that your hearts are not weighed down with dissipation and drunkenness and the worries of this life, and that day close down upon you suddenly like a trap. So be careful, or your hearts will be loaded down with carousing, drunkenness, and cares of this life, and that day will come on you suddenly. So be careful, or your hearts will be loaded down with carousing, drunkenness, and cares of this life, and that day will come on you suddenly. For as a snare shall it come on all them that dwell on the face of the whole earth. For so it will come on all those who are living on the face of all the earth. And it will surprise everyone who lives on earth, like a trap, because it will come on everyone who lives on the face of the earth. For it will overtake all who live on the face of the whole earth. For it will come like a snare on all those who dwell on the surface of all the earth. Watch you, therefore, and pray always, that you may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man. But keep watch at all times with prayer, that you may be strong enough to come through all these things and take your place before the Son of Man. So watch all the time. Continue to pray for power to get out of all these things. So then you will stand in front of me, and you will not be afraid of me. So be alert at all times, praying that you may have strength to escape all these things that are going to take place, and to take your stand in the presence of the Son of Man. But stay alert at all times, praying that you may have strength to escape all these things that must happen, and to stand before the Son of Man. Therefore, be watchful all the time, praying that you may be able to escape all these things that will happen, and to stand before the Son of Man. Therefore, be watchful all the time, praying that you may be counted worthy to escape all these things that will happen, and to stand before the Son of Man. And in the daytime he was teaching in the temple, and at night he went out and abode in the mount that is called the Mount of Olives. And every day he was teaching in the temple, and every night he went out to the mountain, which is named the Mountain of Olives, to take his rest. Jesus was teaching every day in the great house of God. Each night he went out of the city, and he stayed on the Mount of Olives. Now during the day Jesus would teach in the temple, but when evening came, he would go out and spend the night on what is called the Mount of Olives. So every day Jesus was teaching in the temple courts, but at night he went and stayed on the Mount of Olives. Every day Jesus was teaching in the temple, and every night he would go out and spend the night on the mountain that is called Olivet. Every day Jesus was teaching in the temple, and every night he would go out and spend the night on the mountain that is called Olivet. And all the people came early in the morning to him in the temple for to hear him. And all the people came early in the morning to give ear to his words in the temple. He returned to the great house of God each morning. All the people were going there early to hear him. And all the people would get up early in the morning to listen to him in the temple. And all the people came to him early in the morning to listen to him in the temple courts. All the people came early in the morning to him in the temple to hear him.